This is my 2000 Lexus LX470, and as anyone who owns an LX470 is eager to tell you, it's basically a Land Cruiser. And in this video, I'm going to take you on a thorough walkthrough of my LX470, and I'm going to show you all of the modifications, upgrades, and changes that have been made to turn this already capable vehicle into a truly excellent overland adventure machine. Before we get started with the walk around though, I think it's important to provide a little bit of context about how we use this truck. So first and foremost, this is not my daily driver, although I do drive it a few times a week, running errands around town, hauling larger items and things like that. Primarily though, Elsie, as we call her, is set up for overland travel. The vast majority of the 25,000 miles that we've put on it since taking ownership have either been off pavement miles or from long stints on the freeway to get to the starting point of an overland adventure. So that means that for us, on pavement comfort is equally as important as off-road performance. So bear that in mind as I show you some of the modifications that we have and have not made. All right, so with that out of the way, let's jump right into this walk around, and I want to start with wheels and tires, which is far and away one of the most commonly asked questions that I get. So let's start with tires. These are BF Goodrich KO2 all-terrain tires. The exact size is 285/75 R16, and they are roughly 33 inches tall. I absolutely love these tires. I put about 25,000 miles on them. They are wearing pretty well, and they have performed excellent in rock, gravel, sand, a little bit of mud, and some snow. So all around, they are, as advertised, they are great all-terrain tires. Now, another question I get is about the wheels, and these are by a company called SCS. SCS is very popular with the Toyota truck enthusiast crowd. These are the F5s is the name of this particular wheel, and they have a gunmetal finish. The other thing to note with these wheels is they have a +10 offset. And as you can see, they give this truck a little bit more of an aggressive stance. The wheels sit a little bit further outside the fenders, which I think gives it a very good look. Now, one thing to note here is that that does cause some problems, especially if you're on stock suspension like I am. So I did have to do a little bit of trimming of the fender liner, and I did have to hammer the pinch weld a little bit to alleviate some rubbing issues. But now they really don't rub very much unless I hit a big pothole or something like that. I might get a little bit of rubbing up on top of the fender. But all in all, I love the size, I love the look, and if I had to do it all over again, I think I would go right back to this same setup. I've been very, very happy with it. And while I'm down here, let's talk about suspension. As I just mentioned, I am still on the factory AHC hydraulically adjustable suspension. Now, it's a big point of debate as far as whether one should keep the AHC suspension or scrap it and go with a more traditional suspension setup. Personally, I absolutely love the AHC suspension, and I will keep it going as long as I can because it has an incredibly comfortable ride on pavement, and off pavement you have the ability to raise and lower the suspension as you need to. So if you need to clear an obstacle, you can gain an additional 2 inches of ground clearance just with a push of a button. So I am a huge fan of the AHC suspension. I will note that one modification I did have to make to the AHC suspension system was I did need to add some heavier rear coil springs to deal with the additional weight of the truck when it's all loaded down for travel, especially with the drawer system that we've added. And I'll talk about that drawer system in just a little bit. The next modification that I want to share with you while we're on the exterior here are a couple things that I have done to add additional protection for when we are off-roading. And the first is right here. These are rock sliders. They're by a company called Metal Tech, and these bolt directly to the frame via 2 U-bolts. And the purpose of these is just really to save the rocker panels along the side of the vehicle. So as you are navigating more difficult obstacles, large rocks, things like that, the rock may contact the rock slider right here, and as the name implies, slide right over it and save your rocker panels. So that's the first thing that we did for protection. Now, the second thing that we added for protection is underneath, and that is a full set of Asphere 4x4 aluminum skid plates. This just adds protection for the underbody. Now, from the factory, there are some skid plates, but they don't have as much coverage and they're a lot thinner. So I decided to upgrade those after making contact with a few things underneath the vehicle while off-road. And so between those two modifications, it just gives us that much more capability and that much more confidence that if we do encounter some more difficult obstacles, we are less likely to do damage to the vehicle and we're more likely to be able to make it back to civilization, which is pretty important. And speaking of underneath the vehicle, there is one additional modification that I made to the underside of this vehicle, and that is the addition of a couple of recovery points. Because the truth is, the LX470 and 100 Series Land Cruiser, they do not come with very good recovery options from the factory. There are some tow hooks, front and rear, but they're really not rated for proper recovery situations. And so one of the first things I did was add these recovery hooks from Ironman 4x4, and you know they work because they're red. Well, that, and they're just a lot beefier than the ones from the factory. And so in the front, we have those Ironman 4x4 recovery points. Now in the rear, we have this, which is a hitch receiver mounted recovery point that just slides right in to the hitch receiver, and it doubles as an excellent dog leash tie down point. And rounding out the exterior modifications on our LX470 takes us to the roof. And you'll notice pretty quickly that I still have the factory roof rack on up here. And that is partly because I don't carry a lot of stuff up here. I don't like having a lot of weight up high. When we're off-road and things get off camber and things like that, I prefer to keep the weight down lower in the vehicle. And so I want to show you what we carry up here, and then I also want to show you how we mount it. There's four things typically that I carry up here. One is this high lift jack. It is actually mounted using High Lift's own mounts, which kind of looks like it wouldn't work, but it actually works really, really well. In fact, it has never budged over washboard roads, over big whoops, things like that. It has always stayed super stable. So that is how we mount this to this rail here. We also have our shovel. The shovel is mounted using a couple of Yakima Mighty mounts with then quick fist mounts screwed into them. Same thing with the recovery boards. These are also using a bolt that just goes through a set of Yakima Mighty mounts. And then on the other side, we have our awning. The awning was a little bit trickier to mount with the factory roof rack. I actually found this mounting solution on I Hate Mud. I will post a link to that thread in the description of this video. So if you're trying to get a little bit more idea on how you can mount an ARB awning or similar to the factory roof mounting points on a 100 Series Land Cruiser, that may help you and give you some inspiration. So that's pretty much it for what we have up on the roof. Okay, now moving inside, I want to show you some of the modifications that we have made up here. And I want to start by talking a little bit about navigation. I'm not a big fan of big, bulky iPad holders and things like that up here. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but when we're not on a long overland trip, I like to have this look as factory as possible. And so a lot of the changes and modifications that I have made up here are done in the interest of being able to disassemble them or take them out easily so that when we're not using them, they're not taking up space in here. So first thing for navigation is this right here. So this is a Garmin GPS device that is mounted right here to the dash. And you may notice that it says BMW Motorrad. And you might be thinking, why is that on there? Well, the answer is that I lifted it straight off of my R1200 GS motorcycle, but it works great, and I use this as my primary means of navigation on a trip. I like that I don't have to worry about downloading a map or anything like that, because as long as I have a GPS signal, this will be able to tell me where I am. And if we're on an established route or a route that I have created GPX files for, I will download them to this device, and then it really makes navigation super simple because all I'm doing is following a line on the map. So that's our primary means of navigation. Secondary means of navigation is using Gaia GPS on our cell phone. So before we go on a trip, typically I'll download maps to both mine and Christine's cell phone, and we'll have those available as well. I do have this aftermarket Pioneer head unit with Android Auto, and so I can put my Gaia map on that if I want to as well. That's really about it for navigation. The only other thing to note would be I do carry paper maps in the back seat as well. Now let's talk about communications. And for us, honestly, it's super simple. We use this. It's a Midland GXT model handheld walkie-talkie. We have two of them so that we can have one in the vehicle and we can have one in the hands of a spotter. This is what we use for vehicle-to-vehicle communications as well. And yes, I know I don't have ham radio and I don't have a CB radio, and so I'll probably get roasted for that in the comments, but honestly, this has always worked really well for us. The way I have it mounted is I have a simple magnetic vent mount here, and then I put a magnet on the back of this, and this just clips on here, and it has stayed on really well. I mean, it's probably fallen off once or twice over some extremely corrugated roads, but generally it holds up well. And again, going back to what I said earlier, I like the fact that when we're not using it, I can take it out. I don't have anything hardwired into the truck like a CB radio or a ham radio unit or anything like that. One other thing to note about communications is this right here. This is our Garmin InReach Mini. This just allows us to communicate with the outside world in the event of an emergency. If we don't have cell service, we can use this to communicate. There's also an SOS button we can push if things get really out of hand. But people often ask me, how do I mount this? I think they see it in our videos. And the answer is, it's super simple. This just came with a Velcro clip when I got this Garmin. And so I just Velcro this right to the headliner, and honestly it's actually never come off, so it is Velcroed on there pretty good, even over horribly corrugated roads and whoops and things like that. It sticks right up there. So that's how we mount that. The last thing worth noting up in the front seat area is right beneath me here. This is a fire extinguisher that is hard mounted to the front seat. It's super important to me that we have quick access to a fire extinguisher. I don't ever want to have to be rummaging around in the back or moving things in order to access a fire extinguisher, because in the event that we need it, we will need it quickly. And this is just always something, as a side note, if you are venturing into national forest land or into the backcountry anywhere, you should always carry a fire extinguisher, and it should be easily accessible. So anyway, that is it for the front seat. Let's move along to the back seat. So there's really not a whole lot to go over in the back seat, but really what this is Indiana's area. So for those that don't know, we have a 16-year-old border collie named Indiana Jones, and it's super important for us when we take her on trips, especially on bumpy roads, off-road and things like that, that she is as comfortable as possible. So she basically gets the run of this back seat. She has this dog hammock, and then on top of that is a yoga mat from Amazon, and then on top of that is her bed. So she gets options as far as what she wants to lay on here. The only other thing worth noting back here is in the footwell area, that's just where I store things like recovery gear and tools and things that I need quick access to. So that just lives down in the floor well here. So anyway, that is all there is really to see back here. But now I want to take you to my absolute favorite place in this vehicle, which is in the back. Ah yes, as I mentioned, far and away my favorite modification that we have made to our LX470 on the inside is right here in the back, and you can pretty much see it straight away. This drawer system has been an absolute game changer for us, and I'll show you in just a moment how it works and how we organize it, and a few other details about the cargo area in the back. But first, I'll just give you a little bit of an idea of what this is and how we got it and how it was built. So the company that builds this is called SHW Off-Road, and they build these drawer systems in a couple different ways. You can buy them fully assembled, you can buy them as a kit, which is what I did. So everything is flat packed, all the hardware included, and then you assemble it. It's essentially like a slightly more advanced IKEA project. Or if you are more of a DIYer, you can just purchase the plans and then you can create everything yourself. So there's a lot of flexibility there, but these are incredible. Also a great value. So here's how they work. With this drawer system, there are two drawers. There's a larger drawer and a smaller drawer. So starting with the larger drawer, it is super deep. It's the entire depth of the cargo area in the back here. And for us, this one we use as our camp kitchen. So we have our pots and pans, we have our pantry, and then we have all of our cutlery and kitchen utensils and everything like that in this drawer here, which makes it super easy because everything is organized. Before we had a tote and a bin and we're always looking for things and trying to find things. This has made things so much easier in that regard. Secondly, we have another drawer, which is the same depth. It's just shallower to accommodate the fridge slide, which I'll show you in just a moment. This is kind of our general catch-all camping box. So this has a lot of our just general camping gear and bungees and towels and things that we just need to access quickly when we're out at camp. So you get two drawers. And then the really cool part about this drawer system, and one of the things that led me to it, is that it has an integrated fridge slide. So this here is the fridge slide, and it pulls out and it tilts down. And it's got limiting straps, so it can't tilt any further. Now right now I don't have anything in it, so if I let it go, it'll try and go back. But if it's loaded up, it will just stay like this. And this just makes it easier to grab things out of the fridge and get into the fridge, especially for Christine, since she's not as tall as I am. So the fact that this is all integrated and then it just slides right back in and locks back into place, absolutely love these drawer systems. One other thing to note with the drawer systems, on either side there are also wings that you can use for storage. So in this wing here, we tend to keep a lot of our emergency supplies. So we keep extra food, we keep extra blankets, we keep rope, we keep general supplies, things that we don't need often but we could potentially need in case of an emergency. Those go in this wing. And then in the other wing, we just keep things that we don't need very often, but some additional tools, ratchet straps, battery chargers, things like that. Things that we may need access to, but typically we don't need on a day-to-day basis. Those go in these wings. So I will probably do a full review of this drawer system sometime soon, but I just wanted to show you kind of how we use it, how we store things in here, because people always ask us, how do we get this? Did we make it? And all of that. But again, this has just been an absolute game changer for us, just in terms of organization and knowing where everything is and not having to rummage through totes. I would highly recommend considering a drawer system of some sort if you are going to be doing a lot of camping and overlanding. And the next thing to talk about back here is the fridge. This is another game changer for us. We used a Yeti cooler for years and years, and we were always worried about ice. We were stopping at the grocery store every few days. And when we switched to a proper refrigerator, it made a world of difference. But I always get questions from people on how we run this thing. And so I thought that I would explain that in a little bit more detail since we're doing this walk around right now. I do not have a dual battery setup in the truck. What I do instead is I use a Jackery. Ours is a Jackery 500. And what we do is we have the Jackery plugged into the truck in the back here. So as we're driving, the truck is charging the Jackery. And then once we get to camp or the engine is shut off, then the Jackery is powering the refrigerator. And what I have found is that this works pretty well for about 2 to 3 days if we're camping in a different spot each day. The problem arises when we stay at camp for more than 1 day. And so because of that, I added a 120 watt solar panel to the gear that we bring with us, and that has worked great. And since adding that 120 watt solar panel to the Jackery setup, it has pretty much alleviated our power concerns. We also use the Jackery to charge all of our cameras, drones, phones, and everything that we use to film on these trips as well. So if I were going to do it again, I would probably go with a Jackery 1000, because between the fridge and all of our devices, we really do have to lean on that solar panel, or we have to be driving for multiple hours a day in order to recharge the Jackery. But anyway, that is how we set up the power management with the fridge and all of our other devices here in the back. All right, so there you go. A thorough walk around of Elsie, our 2000 Lexus LX470. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions on anything that I went over in this video, drop them in the comments below and I'm happy to answer them. If there's anything that I missed that you want to know more about, feel free to ask that as well. I will answer any and all questions. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel if you're not subscribed already. I will have more LX470/100 series Land Cruiser content coming soon, and thanks for watching.